Hi everyone, Ollie here. Welcome back to the channel. Now, this is going to be an updated Q&A video about studying at Warwick Medical School. I'm into phase 3 of the course and preparing for finals, so theoretically I've seen most of everything the course has to offer. So I've been taking questions from you guys. I've been sent an absolute ton. So the very first question... Sorry to interrupt guys, editing stage Ollie here. One person did ask me about the age demographics of the first year of the cohort, what they tend to be. As in, what age were people when they started at Warwick Medical School? So I asked the current first years and got 111 responses. 73% of them were aged between 21 and 25 when they started med school. 21% were aged between 26 and 30. And then the remaining 6% were aged between 30 and 40. But honestly, however old you are, it doesn't matter. If you want to come to medical school, come to medical school. Everyone's lovely. It'll be fine. Someone wanted to know about how the funding works. It's very similar to how your undergraduate degree would have worked, in terms of you can get a loan and there's money for you in just the way there was before. The only major difference is there's a lump sum you need to pay, which is about £3,500. I can't remember the exact figure, and I'll leave a link to the most up-to-date figures. It does change slightly with time, but you have to find this lump sum of about £3,500 for which there is no support available. You just have to pay that. Then the difference between that number and the £9,250 standard tuition fee, that difference is covered by your student loan from the student loans company, and thereafter that amount, the £3,500, is paid by the NHS every year, and student loans covers the rest, as it would normally be. You can apply for a maintenance loan as you normally would, and once you enter the clinical years of the course, that's years 2 to 4, you can apply for the NHS bursary, which everyone is able to receive, which complements the reduced maintenance loan that you'll get during that time. I wouldn't dwell on it too heavily, but what I would say is don't worry, there is money for you. It's one of the benefits of doing a 4-year program as opposed to a 5-year. There is a lot more money out there to support you. You'll be fine. This is of course assuming that you're a UK student. Standard international student fees, which can be more than £20,000 a year, apply if you're coming from abroad, I'm afraid. Now, the biggest question people wanted to ask was, what can I do to prepare, particularly as we're deep in coronavirus lockdown, what can I be doing between now and then to prepare myself for medical school? And this, honestly, I found it quite frustrating to talk about this because no one listens to me, but I say to everyone, do nothing, okay? If you come from a scientist background, you do not need to prepare for medical school. The course is specifically designed to teach you everything you need to know. This is particularly important because when you come to Warwick, right, first year is the hard year of the course. It's got the highest attrition rate. If anything's going to trip you up, it's the first year exam. Your only goal is to pass the first year exam. The only way to pass the first year exam is by answering the questions in exactly the way that the medical school teaches you and wants you to answer them. So this is why I say that studying too much before you come is not only not a good use of your time, because you get very limited time once you're into the course. So make the most of free time while you have it. Learn a language or do something else, or just spend time with your friends. But if you start learning things and you start learning knowledge and embedding it in a way that doesn't suit the mark scheme that the medical school will be using for the exams, it's worthless. The exception to this is if you are not familiar with the basic sciences. So let's say you come from a completely non-science background, or it's been a while since you studied at university, then in that case, I recommend looking at the core A-level biology syllabus. Just knowing the basics about what proteins are, what cells are, how they metabolize, how do cells reproduce, what's DNA transcription and translation, the basics of biochemistry, the Krebs cycle, things like this. They are covered in the course, and I'll talk about that more in a second. But I think that can lessen the impact of the beginning of the course if you're at least familiar with some of these terms, in terms of, do you need to be studying anatomy, physiology, pharmacology before you enter the course? Absolutely not, and I would advise against you doing that. Do you need to be engaging with things like the SMILE medical education lectures that are on at the moment? You can if you want, but do it for no other reason than personal enjoyment. These are aimed at clinical medical students, particularly those aiming for finals. By the time the course comes around, Not only will that material not be relevant for you because the first year exam is not clinical, it's basic sciences, there is a danger in trying to apply that knowledge when it comes to your coursework, tests and the exams, and you need to focus much more on the basic sciences as the medical school teaches them to you. I can't emphasize that enough. Some people have asked about the catch-up compendium. All that is a precursor for people who are about to undertake a life sciences degree. I think it's about 600 pages of maths, chemistry and biology. If you're going to do that, I would just look at the biology parts. There's very little maths in the course, and to be honest, very, very little chemistry. Basic biology, that's all you need. I would not advise doing any more than that. I don't think it's a good use of your time. Is there a freshers week is the next question. Kind of not. The first week of the course, Learning Medicine Week, is designed as a reintroduction to studying at university, but it's more focused on studying medicine, which, if you've watched my videos before, studying medicine is very, very different to how you will have studied in your undergrad. There's a misconception that degrees like medical sciences and biomed and so on are the same as studying medicine. Wrong. That's a falsehood. The emphasis is on breadth, not depth, and that requires studying in a very, very different way. So Learning Medicine Week is a chance of trying out new methods of studying, getting used to studying a medical degree, and just getting used to the medical school. Stuff does happen in the evenings, so it's things like society events, bar crawls, the standard Freshers Week stuff. It's just toned down a little bit. But there are plenty of socials and things on, but is there a Freshers Week where you're not really doing anything? No. Someone also asked, is it strenuous the first week? It's a lot of hours, because it's a pretty jam-packed first week in terms of the timetable. Did I find it strenuous coming from a life sciences background? I have a cellular and molecular biology degree. No, because it's stuff I'd already done a million times. If you come from a non-sciences background, or it's been a while since you studied, it will feel like a lot. A lot of the terms will be brand new. Everyone will be talking about things that they clearly understand. Don't worry about it. Everyone gets over that eventually and comes to the same kind of level playing field. A lot of people asking about how to find housemates and where to live in the first year, so we'll talk about that next. There are three options when it comes to the first year living at Warwick. The first is to live on campus in halls. There is one group of halls that is allocated for graduate medics. That's the Tossell Hall, which you can apply for. However, there are very limited spaces, certainly not enough spaces for the number of new undergrads coming onto the first year of the course. So you can apply for that, which I did. That's one option. I did not get that place. So the next option is living in university accommodation. That's accommodation run by the University of Warwick, but off campus. That can be anywhere in the surrounding area. That might be Coventry itself, Leamington Spa, or somewhere like Kenilworth. There are places all over, but they're all quite close to the university. If you go down this pathway, they are done through a private landlord, but kind of overseen by the university, and you tend to be placed with other medics and postgraduate students. So I lived in Leamington Spa, which is where this property was. That's where I met the housemates that I'm living with now, who are all other medics. The third option is going for a normal private rent. So how do you find housemates to live with? I would suggest either making, Facebook connections. There's always a Facebook group for the incoming year at Warwick, or using the Offer Holders Day, which I think is normally in June or July, to come and meet your course mates, say hi to people, and you can chat about private rents. And there is an opportunity specifically at the end of the day when you all go for a drink in the pub on main campus to sort that out if that's what people want to do. So don't worry about it. Someone also asked, where is it most optimal to live? I guess by definition, somewhere in Coventry is closest to the university and closest to UKCAT, the biggest teaching hospital. We lived in Leamington Spa, which is about 20 minutes drive from the university, and Kenilworth is similar. The bus service is a hit and miss if you don't drive, but usually carpooling is available and is a good idea. Again, just talk to people on the course and it tends to work itself out. So I would say for first year, don't worry too much about where you're living because you're just based at the university the whole time, more or less. I'm just going to start running through some of the questions now because my organisation has run out. So how does it feel to be a graduate surrounded by undergraduates? The nice thing about Warwick is that it's a purely postgraduate medicine course. It's still an undergraduate degree, but it's postgrad only. So You're not surrounded by 18-year-olds. There are 18-year-olds and what I'm going to call undergrads studying there, obviously, but Warwick Medical School is on the Gibbet Hill campus, which is a separate campus about 10 minutes walk away from main campus. And so it's only really the kind of biology, biomedy type students that you would see anyway, and it's usually mostly postgrads that you see wandering around. How many contact hours each week do you have? This depends massively on the year of the course. When I was in first year, it was pretty much 9 to 5 every day. You're doing the equivalent of working full time, I would say, with studying in the evening, and I would allow time in the evenings as well for going to things like societies if you want to do them, sports teams, or going to things like student seminars or peer support teaching, which I do suggest you engage with when you're coming. I believe now that Wednesdays are clear. Now, so this changed in the last couple of years, so Wednesdays are off for you to do with what you want. I would recommend using it to study or, take time off and do society things. Just make sure to use the time well. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, expect to be at the medical school. Fridays are spent at UHCW, University Hospital, Coventry and Warwickshire, where you'll have your anatomy training in the surgical training centre, and you'll also have your clinical skills teaching on a Friday as well. You might be in the morning, you might be in the afternoon, it depends on the timetable. Someone asked, when does the clinical teaching start? Again, this has varied with time. I believe now that your clinical teaching will mostly start in the new year, when either kind of once a fortnight, around that sort of frequency, you'll go into hospital and do a half day shadowing a doctor on the wards. You might go and follow a ward round, you might use your examination skills to go and see patients. Something that I would posit as a real advantage of the Warwick course is that you become competent in your clinical skills and actually talking to people and examining people far faster than I think virtually any other medical school in the country. It always amazes me how late in the course most medical students learn to examine patients properly. The fact that you're doing it in pretty much the first few weeks on the Warwick programme is a real advantage, and it's something to be proud of. But first year is pretty much just full-time lectures with these clinical and anatomy things once a week. That continues all the way through the year. You'll do some community placements as well, where you're going out and speaking to patients in their homes, learning a bit more about the health service and how it actually works. That carries through into second year, where I'm afraid you're still in lectures from September until the new year, but you get to do an optional module of your choice during that period. And then from the January of second year, that's when you start clinical placement full time. So 9 to 5 every day, if that's what you choose to do, and that's what you're supposed to be doing. You'll be in hospital seeing patients, except for once a fortnight, you will have a full day at the university of lectures and CBL and things like that. And that's actually pretty much the same for third year as well. We follow the same timetable where we're in every single day. The emphasis for us in phase 3 is a bit more clinical, and once a fortnight we all come into the university to have CBL and have focused lectures. So just a brief overview of the course. First year, very lecture based. The emphasis is basic sciences. Okay, it's not really clinical correlation. Basic sciences, basic clinical skills. The emphasis is not on diagnosis, it's understanding of the normal anatomy and physiology. Year 1 and phase 1 are the same. Year 2 and phase 2 are the same. The emphasis then becomes more on diagnosis, forming an accurate differential diagnosis and knowing how you would test for each thing. If my patient comes in and complains of this, what tests can I do? What imaging can I do to understand what might actually be wrong with them? So first year basic sciences, second year diagnosis. Phase 3, which encompasses years 3 and 4, there are no exams in year 3 and it runs through to finals. The emphasis is more on management. You're assumed to have the basic sciences knowledge, you know how to diagnose, you can form a decent differentials list, but it's then what are you actually going to do for the patient that's in front of you. It's preparing you to be a Foundation 1 doctor. There's a couple of people asking about study techniques for first year, how to take notes from lectures. Different people do this in very different ways, and you need to be willing to try lots of different things. In my undergrad, I just wrote notes during every lecture, kind of used flashcards and things to memorize. I still use flashcards. You have to be willing to try very different things. I think things that you might not have tried before or seem a bit stupid. So coming up with mnemonics, trying to condense your notes as much as possible into the key points, learning diagrams and other visual memory devices. You can use things like Memory Palace, forced recall, spaced repetition. I've never been the biggest fan of just furiously writing notes in lectures, because I think that takes your mind off the lecture. Like if you're paying attention to writing notes, you're not paying proper attention to the lecture. So something that I do now, for example, is I have Anki open on my laptop during a lecture, and while I'm listening to the lecture, I'm actually writing flashcards during the lecture from the key points that appear on the slides and that the lecturer mentions. Because medicine is a game, I think, of remembering the really important stuff that is going to help you manage a patient. Because if you're writing lots of notes that you're never actually going to commit to memory, I wouldn't call that a good use of time. So writing notes like that doesn't work for me anymore, but you've got to try lots of different things. And it's okay to take months and months and months in first year to not really know how to study medicine. It took me until, I would say, February of first year, we're getting on 6 months, to have actually worked it out. And even then, my study habits have changed between first year, second year and third year, so don't worry, you just got to focus on being malleable and asking for help when you need it. How is first year specifically different? It's just a lot more book learning. It's a lot more rote learning with less practical application of what you're learning. Did I enjoy first year? Yeah, absolutely. I was a bit frustrated having to revisit a lot of the same content from my undergrad, but is it really important that everyone goes through that process, particularly going through the first year exams? Absolutely. Exam period and revision period is when you actually cement your knowledge in medical school, and it's really important for everyone to go through that phase. Was it very stressful? Yes. Would I do it again? No, not given the choice. Of course I'd come to medical school again, but I wouldn't actively look forward to going through first year again. I'm much happier seeing patients. The next set of questions that people have asked are more about the application side of things. Firstly, does Warwick accept transfers from other medical schools? I asked them this recently in preparation for this video. Unfortunately, the answer is a flat no. That's whether you're at a UK medical school or an international school. The official line is no, they don't accept transfers from elsewhere. You can apply, through the normal process, and you can earn a place that way, but can you apply onto it from another course? No. Personal statement help. Warwick doesn't focus too heavily on the personal statement. Honestly, with a lot of things when you're applying to medicine, it's merely a formality. Be honest, be transparent about what you've done, try and highlight your best qualities, but as far as Warwick goes, I honestly wouldn't worry too much about it. Just submit one and kind of be done. I'm studying a PGCE at Warwick while I'm applying. Do you think this will be a problem? I don't know why this would be a problem specifically, unless you would have to leave the PGCE in order to do the course. Then yes, I can see that being a problem, only because you wouldn't want to be doing the two things at once. But if you were going to finish the PGCE, by the time medical school starts, yeah, that should be absolutely fine. I can't volunteer in the NHS at the moment due to COVID. What should I do? I have lots of experience from a few years ago. And will there be changed requirements for entry in the future? I think there are going to have to be. Obviously, I don't know, but medical schools everywhere know that people are going to really struggle to get work experience at the moment. It's impossible. Like, med students can't get teaching, let alone having someone untrained kind of wandering about on the wards. With regards entry in the future, I don't know what's going to happen. I would just say don't be worried about it, because everyone is in the same position. They're understanding, they know what the realities are. In practicality, I think the volunteering experience is just going to have to be, they'll have to tone down the standard of entry. Can you talk about stuff you've done before? As with all medical applications, I can't stress this enough, and it's one of those things, no one listens to me, but I will keep saying it. You've just got to follow a medical school's guidelines. Don't try and negotiate with a medical school. It's a complete waste of time when it comes to applications, because there are 10 more people who have the exact same CV as you do. When you're applying to med school, your job is to make it as easy for them as possible to hire you, to give you a place on the course. If you don't fit the guidelines, you don't have the right grades, or you don't have the right work experience at the time when you apply as they specify, then don't bother, because it's a waste of time. If they say that you can talk about stuff from, say, more than 2 or 3 years ago, then that's great. Do whatever their guidance says you can do and maximize it for your own benefit. But in terms of going rogue and trying to pull other things in beyond what they specify and what they allow, no, don't bother. How strong is the emphasis on work experience references? Someone asked. Again, this is along the same kind of lines. I think people get hung up on the idea that the more work experience you've done in terms of hours, or the more exciting work experience you've done carries weight. No, with Warwick it doesn't work like that. They use it as a minimum requirement cutoff. All they care about is that you've done the 70 or 80 hours or whatever it is that they ask for. As long as you tick that box, they're not interested anymore. It's used as a baseline to determine whether or not a candidate might be suitable. You don't really get ranked on it, as it were. The last thing I want to talk about very briefly, because this video has been going on a very long time, is Warwick considered a good medical school? Are you preferred when you're applying for your F1 jobs? How does applying for jobs work? Right. To summarise this very, very succinctly, Warwick is considered a good medical school. Doctors that graduate from Warwick actually have a national reputation for being very good doctors. I've found this since coming to medical school. They do very well when getting their preferred jobs at F1 and in terms of specialty application. I don't know how much of this is due to because all the applicants are older and we all have degrees anyway, we're more likely to have done the things that would rank you higher. But either way, if you come to Warwick, you're likely to get the jobs you want. In terms of actually being allocated jobs, is Warwick, ranked highly? Medical applications for jobs, when you finish medical school and starting to work as a doctor, don't work like that. The prestige of your medical school doesn't matter. They're blinded, actually, as far as I know, because it's done through a national selection scheme. Everyone sits essentially an ethics-based exam called the Situational Judgment Test, which is not dissimilar to the one that you'll have done in the UKCAT. You do that, that's the major contributor to your overall points. That counts for 50 points out of 100. You can get up to 5 points out of 100 for any previous degrees you might hold, so a PhD is worth 5, a first-class degree or a master's is worth 4, and so on, 3 for a 2-1. You can have up to 2 points, 1 point for each PubMed indexed published paper. And then the remainder of the points that I've not talked about come from your decile, that is your rank within the medical school at which you study. So the top 10% of the course get awarded 43, I think, points. The next 10% of the cohort who do the next 10% best in their exams get 8 points, the next 10% get 7 points, and so on until you get to the 10th decile. So the only 4 domains that contribute to your overall score out of 100 are the SJT, which is the major thing, your rank within medical school, whether you've published any papers up to a maximum of 2, and your previous degree. So obviously anyone who comes to Warwick will have at least 3 out of 5 because you have to have a degree. So every medical student at every medical school in the country gets a score out of 100, and you rank a set of jobs in the country that you want. So you apply to deaneries, which are kind of geographical areas, so that might be Northwest London or Severn or the West Midlands or the Northeast or whatever. Certain places much more competitive than others. London, very competitive. The North, not so competitive. That's a very brief look at how that works. The actual medical school that you study at makes no difference to that process. So that's it, guys. I'm sorry this has gone on so long. I just wanted to try and answer as many questions as I could, and I've probably missed things. If I have, please let me know in the comments down below, and I promise that I will answer each and every question. You can always contact me through the form on my website, postgradmedic.com. If you don't want to say it publicly, just send me through a message, or on social media. I'm pretty good at answering questions quickly at any time of day or night, so just ask. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Please be sure to hit that like button for me, leave a comment, subscribe, and don't forget to go and check out postgradmedic.com for more free resources and videos about getting into and studying at medical school just like this one. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys. There are 3 ways you can support the channel. The first one is to like, comment, subscribe, share this video with a friend. Just enjoy it generally. Second is you can buy me a coffee if you found it useful using my Ko-fi link, which will help keep me awake during the editing process. And then thirdly, you can use my referral link to save 10% off your first year of Complete Anatomy 2020, my favourite 3D anatomy learning tool. Take care, guys, and I'll see you next time.